guys, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Crave. Today we want to talk about the Switch successor. My friend Rob over at Rule of Two Review has been just pumping out content and some pretty good, well thought out content about why he thinks the Switch successor, the Switch 2, or whatever Nintendo comes out with for their next generation console might be coming in 2023. And I wanted to throw my hat in the ring, as it were, because I really don't think we're going to see any meaningful hardware released in 2023. Sure, we're going to see, I think it's a pretty reasonable to see from the leaks, that we're going to see a Zelda OLED Switch released alongside Tears of the Kingdom, and I think we may see a few other aesthetic designs on the Switch Lite and maybe another design of the Switch OLED. I think those are reasonable to assume. Nintendo tends to, towards the end of the life cycle of a console, start to do some crazy things with it, different colors, different patterns, things like that, in order to boost up the sales towards the end of a life cycle. So I do think we may see some aesthetic designs, but I do not think we're going to see any meaningful hardware releases in 2023. And I've got 5 reasons here why I think that's the case. Let's look at number 1. Reason number 1, the Nintendo Switch is still selling incredibly well, and Nintendo would be pretty crazy to abandon it at this point. So we have seen all the way through from the pandemic and going forward all the way up until today, any sales numbers you look at, the Nintendo Switch has been the best-selling console in any given market in any given time, up until the last couple of months, when it has been eclipsed a couple of times in a couple of places by the PS5. But the Nintendo Switch is still selling really, really well. For 2022, Nintendo did have to revise their sales projections a little bit, down from I think 25 million to about 22 million or something, and it looks like they're on pace to hit that. So it is selling a little bit less than it was before. But make no mistake, 20 million consoles in the 6th to 7th year of a console's lifespan is amazing, and that is really, really good sales. If you look at something like the 6th or 7th year of the Xbox One or the PS4, for example, the PS4 sold very, very well, but it did start to slow down in a hurry towards the 6th and 7th year of its life cycle, whereas the Switch is still going really, really strong. Reason number 2 here is that Switch software is selling really, really well. Even in 2023, the software is selling extremely well. We've had some banger games come out in 2022, like Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Bayonetta, Xenoblade, so many great games. Of course, we had a Pokemon game at the end of last year, and Pokemon Arceus at the beginning of this year, I believe it was. So Nintendo has had a hell of a great year for selling software, and we all know that software is what really drives the success of a console. Nintendo, I think, has quite a few more games in the oven to release in this next year. We're expecting to see a Nintendo Direct sometime probably in February, as we usually do. And the software is selling really, really well. Nintendo is coming up on 1 billion units of software sold. Now, I'm going to make a video in the next couple of days about what 1 billion units of software really means in 2023, because it's a very different thing than it was back in the PS2 generation. But still, 1 billion units of software is very, very high. That is something that every console dreams of hitting, and it only happens every so often on mega platforms like the PS4 and things like that. I think it just hit that, or almost hit that, on the Nintendo Wii, which had a huge library. So hitting 1 billion units of software for Nintendo is very big, and they're going to want to let that ride as long as they possibly can. Reason number 3, sorry, I'm just looking down at my notes on my iPad here. Reason number 3, and this one's a little bit divisive, but it's only been 6 years, guys. We're just in, 6 years in here. It launched in 2017. We had 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. That's 6 years. So we're coming into the 7th year. So, that might say it's pretty long in the tooth. And those of us who are, avid gamers, we know the Switch is long in the tooth. But there's still a lot of life to be had in the tank for the Nintendo Switch because of the indie scene. The indie scene has propped up the Nintendo Switch since the beginning, and there's no signs of that stopping at all. Let's just take a little look back into history, because although I say it's only been 6 years, 6 years is actually kind of a waypoint for Nintendo. Most of their generations have lasted 6 years or less. Go all the way back to the N64, which launched in 1996, and the GameCube launched in 2001. So that's about 5 years in that generation. GameCube to Wii, 2001 to 2006, 5 years. The Wii to the Wii U, 2006 to 2012, 6 years. So, 6 years, it definitely feels like time, according to Nintendo's history. Let's look at the handhelds. The GBA launched in, I think, 2001, Game Boy Advance, and the DS launched in 2004, I believe. So that was only 3 years, although they said there was going to be some overlap there, and the DS wasn't supposed to replace the GBA. We know it did. But then there was a little bit of a longer stretch from 2004 with the DS to 2011, I believe it was, with the 3DS. So that's about 7 years. But definitely 6 years is in the window for Nintendo to be wanting to release a new platform. However, just last year, or I think it was either 2020 or 2021, Nintendo came out in a press release and specifically announced that Nintendo was only halfway through its life cycle, and that was at the 5-year mark. So Nintendo is specifically expecting this generation, the Nintendo Switch generation, to last longer. They are projecting, according to their own words in a business press release, they are expecting a 8 to 10 year life cycle for the Nintendo Switch. Now, take that with a grain of salt. However, we know that the more successful a console is, the longer a company wants to stick with it. Obviously, they want to milk as much money out of it as possible. These consoles get cheaper to make as technology advances, and they make more and more profit per unit. Reason number 4 why I think the Switch is not coming out this year is that it hasn't been announced yet, guys. We have seen over and over and over again with every generation in recent memory, both in home consoles and in handheld consoles, that Nintendo... There's rumors, like really credible rumors. We have things like a project name, a code name, or something like that that gets leaked or released, and then Nintendo will announce something at a platform like E3, for example. They'll make an announcement of something that is coming, but it's usually, that announcement is usually 6 months to a year at least before the actual item launches. We've seen consoles get announced at 2 different E3s, for example, going a full year cycle and then some, getting more information at the second E3 before we actually see the console. 2023 is here. It's January now. If they were to even announce something in March this year, which I don't think they're likely to do because they tend to like to announce these things at, major events like E3, for example, it probably wouldn't come out this year, or if it did, it would come out right at the tail end of the year in holiday, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think what is most likely to happen is that they will announce something at E3 either this year or next year, and it'll be 6 months to a year after that. So, the fact that there is no credible leaks, there is no information, we don't have a code name, we don't have any information or speculation on what the next Switch or the next Nintendo device is going to be, we haven't hit that really rumor cycle yet. Building up to the release of a new console, which generally runs for a year or more before we really see anything concrete. Now, point number 5 is that Nintendo wants this to be And of course they do. They want this to be the best-selling console of all time. There is very good chance that the Nintendo Switch could become the best-selling console of all time, eclipsing the DS and the PS2. The DS, I believe, sold something like 140 million units, and the PS2 sold something like 155 million units. The Nintendo Switch is on pace to be around 120 million units pretty shortly, if it's not there already. I think it was at like 117 a couple of months ago. So it's on pace to hit that 120, and probably by the end of another year, it's going to be up in that DS territory of 140 or so. And I think Nintendo really wants to hit that landmark. They want to hit that number of being the best-selling video game console of all time. And, going back to the software conversation we had a couple points ago, they want to have the biggest software library of titles sold as well. So not only do they want to hit that billion that a couple other consoles have hit, they want to exceed it. They want to set a new bar in the industry, 1.2 billion, 1.3 billion. So they want the best-selling console of all time, and of course they do. Wouldn't any business, wouldn't any person want their product to be the most successful of all time? So I think they're going to let the Switch ride. Even if they have something in the oven right now, even if they have the successor ready to go right now, I think they're going to ride the Switch as far as it will go until sales start to really tail off. Until, we're looking at a 50% drop in sales or a 75% drop in sales. Until they're only selling, 500,000 a month or something instead of 2 million a month, right? So I think even they probably do have something in the pipeline right now. We've heard rumors that some developers have dev kits for some kind of next-gen hardware. They're under NDAs about it. They can't talk about it. But I think it's reasonable to assume that people are developing content for the next generation Switch. But just like when we look at software and we see something like the Advance Wars remastered collection, which was postponed, they have that game ready. It's done. There's the only reason they're not releasing it is because they don't think it's the right time in world politics to release a game like that. So they're just sitting on it. And I think that is very likely to be the case with the next generation Switch. I think it's ready to go or very close to it. And they're just riding the Switch, looking to see if they can hit those awesome numbers. So that was my 5 points. I have a couple of bonus points here that I want to point out as well. This year, 2023, we've just seen, I believe, Super Nintendo World in California just opened, or it's just about to open. I think I've seen some posts on Twitter about people going to it. Maybe they're pre-touring it or whatever, influencers or whatever, but it's either just open or it's going to open very shortly. So Super Nintendo World, that's a big investment, and that's something that's going to take a lot of their attention in 2023, getting the kinks worked out in a new theme park. That's a whole new revenue stream for them. Of course, they have Super Nintendo World in Japan, but this is a whole new theme park for them to manage, and that's a really big thing. And another big thing right now is the fact that we're going to see the Super Mario movie launch in just a couple of months here. And that Super Mario movie, that's a big budget production as well. A lot of stuff is riding on that, and we're probably going to see some kind of Mario game released alongside that, or something. Even if they launch a new mobile game or something, I think there is going to be a lot of attention paid to the marketing cycle and hype cycle around the Mario movie, and I really think it is unlikely we're going to see anything to distract from those two things in the next 4 to 6 months. I would say at the earliest we might see an announcement at E3 this June or Summer Games Fest or something like that. We might get the barest of information that Nintendo is working on the next gen system, but I don't even think we'll get an announcement. I don't think we'll get a reveal, of what it is or anything. We may just get a little Easter egg, a little breadcrumb dropped that yes, they are working on something, and stay tuned. I think that is the most we can expect in 2023. I think my timeline is saying maybe E3 2024 we will get a meaningful announcement, and maybe holiday 2024 we will actually get a launch of a next-gen product. So anyways, guys, what do you think? Rob, if you watch this video, what do you think? Am I crazy? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay classy.